56. Consciousness. Arising. World arises.
Questioner: when an ordinary man dies, what happens to him?
Maharaj, according to his belief it happens, as life before death is but imagination, so is life after. The dream continues.
And what about the Jnani?
The Jnani does not die because he was never born,
He appears so to others.
but not to himself. In himself he is free of things, physical and mental.
Still, you must know the state of the man who died, at least from your own past lives.
Until I met my guru, I knew so many things. Now I know nothing, for all knowledge is in dream only and not valid. I know myself, and I find no life nor death in me, only pure being, not being this or that, but just being. But the moment the mind, drawing on its stock of memories, begins to imagine, it fills the space with objects, and time with events. As I do not know even this birth, how can I know past births? It is the mind that, itself in movement, sees everything moving, and having created time, worries about the past and future. All the universe is cradled in consciousness, Maha-tattva, which arises where there is perfect order and harmony, Maha-sattva. As all waves are in the ocean, so are all things physical and mental in awareness. Hence, awareness itself is all important, not the content of it. Deepen and broaden your awareness of yourself, and all the blessings will flow. You need not seek anything. All will come to you most naturally and effortlessly. The 5 senses and the 4 functions of the mind: memory, thought, understanding, and selfhood. The 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The 2 aspects of creation, matter and spirit, all are contained in awareness.
Yet you must believe in having lived before.
The scriptures say so, but I know nothing about it. I know myself as I am. As I appeared or will appear is not within my experience. It is not that I do not remember. In fact, there is nothing to remember. Reincarnation implies a reincarnating self. There is no such thing. The bundle of memories and hopes, called the I, imagines itself existing everlastingly and creates time to accommodate its false eternity. To be, I need no past or future. All experience is born of imagination. I do not imagine, so no birth or death happens to me. Only those who think themselves born can think themselves reborn. You are accusing me of having been born. I plead not guilty. All exists in awareness, and awareness neither dies nor is reborn. It is the changeless reality itself. All the universe of experience is born with the body and dies with the body. It has its beginning and end in awareness, but awareness knows no beginning nor end. If you think it out carefully and brood over it for a long time, you will come to see the light of awareness in all its clarity, and the world will fade out of your vision. It is like looking at a burning incense stick. You see the stick and the smoke first. When you notice the fiery point, you realize that it has the power to consume mountains of sticks and fill the universe with smoke. Timelessly, the self actualizes itself, without exhausting its infinite possibilities. In the incense stick simile, the stick is the body, and the smoke is the mind. As long as the mind is busy with its contortions, it does not perceive its own source. The Guru comes and turns your attention to the spark within. By its very nature, the mind is outward turned. It always tends to seek for the source of things among the things themselves. To be told to look for the source within is, in a way, the beginning of a new life. Awareness takes the place of consciousness. In consciousness there is the I, who is conscious while awareness is undivided. Awareness is aware of itself. The I am is a thought, while awareness is not a thought. There is no I am aware in awareness. Consciousness is an attribute while awareness is not. One can be aware of being conscious, but not conscious of awareness. God is the totality of consciousness, but awareness is beyond all, being as well as not being.
I had started with the question about the condition of a man after death. When his body is destroyed, what happens to his consciousness? Does he carry his senses of seeing, hearing, etc. along with him, or does he leave them behind? And if he loses his senses, what becomes to his consciousness?
Senses are mere modes of perception. As the grosser modes disappear, finer states of consciousness emerge.
Is there no transition to awareness after death?
There can be no transition from consciousness to awareness, for awareness is not a form of consciousness. Consciousness can only become more subtle and refined, and that is what happens after death. As the various vehicles of man die off, the modes of consciousness induced by them also fade away.
Until only unconsciousness remains?
Look at yourself talking of unconsciousness as something that comes and goes. Who is there to be conscious of unconsciousness? As long as the window is open, there is sunlight in the room. With the windows shut, the sun remains. But does it see the darkness in the room? Is there anything like darkness to the sun? There is no such thing as unconsciousness, for unconsciousness is not experienceable. We infer unconsciousness when there is a lapse in memory or communication. If I stop reacting, you will say that I am unconscious. In reality, I may be most acutely conscious, only unable to communicate or remember.
I am asking a simple question. There are about 4 billion people in the world, and they are all bound to die. What will be their condition after death? Not physically, but psychologically. Will their consciousness continue? And if it does, in what form? Do not tell me that I am not asking the right question, or that you do not know the answer, or that in your world my question is meaningless. The moment you start talking about your world and my world as different and incompatible, you build a wall between us. Either we live in one world or your experience is of no use to us.
Of course, we live in one world. Only I see it as it is, while you don't. You see yourself in the world, while I see the world in myself. To you, you get born and die, while to me, the world appears and disappears. Our world is real, but your view of it is not. There is no wall between us, except the one built by you. There is nothing wrong with the senses. It is your imagination that misleads you. It covers up the world as it is, with what you imagine it to be, something existing independently of you, and yet closely following your inherited or acquired patterns. There is a deep contradiction in your attitude, which you do not see, and which is the cause of sorrow. You cling to the idea that you were born into a world of pain and sorrow. I know that the world is a child of love, having its beginning, growth, and fulfillment in love. But I am beyond love, even.
If you have created the world out of love, why is it so full of pain?
You are right, from the body's point of view. But you are not the body. You are the immensity and infinity of consciousness. Don't assume what is not true, and you will see things as I see them. Pain and pleasure, good and bad, right and wrong. These are relative terms and must not be taken absolutely. They are limited and temporary.
In the Buddhist tradition, it is stated that a nirvani, an enlightened Buddha, has the freedom of the universe. He can know and experience for himself all that exists. He can command, interfere with nature, with the chain of causation, change the sequence of events, even undo the past. The world is still with him, but he is free in it.
What you describe is God. Of course, where there is a universe, there will also be its counterpart, which is God. But I am beyond both. There was a kingdom in search of a king. They found the right man and made him king. In no way had he changed. He was merely given the title, the rights, and the duties of a king. His nature was not affected, only his actions. Similarly, with the enlightened man, the content of his consciousness undergoes a radical transformation. But he is not misled. He knows the changeless.
The changeless cannot be conscious. Consciousness is always of change. The changeless leaves no trace in consciousness.
Yes and no. The paper is not the writing, yet it carries the writing. The ink is not the message, nor is the reader's mind the message, but they all make the message possible.
Does consciousness come down from reality, or is it an attribute of matter?
Consciousness as such is the subtle counterpart of matter. Just as inertia, tamas, and energy, rajas, are attributes of matter, so does harmony, sattva, manifest itself as consciousness. You may consider it in a way as a form of very subtle energy. Wherever matter organizes itself into a stable organism, consciousness appears spontaneously. With the destruction of the organism, consciousness disappears.
Then what survives?
That, of which matter and consciousness are but aspects, which is neither born nor dies.
If it is beyond matter and consciousness, how can it be experienced?
It can be known by its effects on both. Look for it in beauty and in bliss. But you will understand neither body nor consciousness unless you go beyond both.
Please tell us squarely, are you conscious or unconscious?
The enlightened, Jnani, is neither. But in his enlightenment, Jnana, all is contained. Awareness contains every experience, but he who is aware is beyond every experience. He is beyond awareness itself.
There is the background of experience, call it matter. There is the experiencer, call it mind. What makes the bridge between the two?
The very gap between is the bridge. That, which at one end looks like matter, and at the other, as mind, is in itself the bridge. Don't separate reality into mind and body, and there will be no need of bridges. Consciousness arising, the world arises. When you consider the wisdom and the beauty of the world, you call it God. Know the source of it all, which is in yourself, and you will find all your questions answered.
The seer and the seen. Are they one or two?
There is only seeing. Both the seer and the seen are contained in it. Don't create differences where there are none.
I began with the question about the man who died. You said that his experiences will shape themselves according to his expectations and beliefs.
Before you were born, you expected to live according to a plan, which you yourself had laid down. Your own will was the backbone of your destiny.
Surely karma interfered.
Karma shapes the circumstances. The attitudes are your own. Ultimately, your character shapes your life, and you alone can shape your character.
How does one shape one's character?
By seeing it as it is, and being sincerely sorry. This integral seeing feeling can work miracles. It is like casting a bronze image. Metal alone or fire alone will not do, nor will the mold be of any use. You have to melt down the metal in the heat of the fire and cast it in the mold.
57. Beyond mind, there is no suffering.
Questioner. I see you sitting in your son's house waiting for lunch to be served, and I wonder whether the content of your consciousness is similar to mine, or partly different, or totally different. Are you hungry and thirsty as I am, waiting rather impatiently for the meals to be served, Or are you in an altogether different state of mind?
Maharaj, there is not much difference on the surface, but very much of it in depth. You know yourself only through the senses and the mind. You take yourself to be what they suggest. Having no direct knowledge of yourself, you have mere ideas, all mediocre, second-hand, by hearsay. Whatever you think you are, you take it to be true. The habit of imagining yourself perceivable and describable is very strong with you. I see as you see, hear as you hear, taste as you taste, eat as you eat. I also feel thirst and hunger and expect my food to be served on time. When starved or sick, my body and mind go weak. All this I perceive quite clearly. But somehow I am not in it. I feel myself as if floating over it, aloof and detached. Even not aloof and detached. There is aloofness and detachment, as there is thirst and hunger. There is also the awareness of it all, and a sense of immense distance, as if the body and the mind and all that happens to them were somewhere far out on the horizon. I am like a cinema screen, clear and empty. The pictures pass over it and disappear, leaving it as clear and empty as before. In no way is the screen affected by the pictures, nor are the pictures affected by the screen. The screen intercepts and reflects the pictures. It does not shape them. It has nothing to do with the rolls of films. These are, as they are, lumps of destiny, prarabdha, but not my destiny, the destinies of the people on the screen.
You do not mean to say that the people in a picture have destinies. They belong to the story. The story is not theirs.
And what about you? Do you shape your life, or are you shaped by it?
Yes, you are right. A life story unrolls itself, of which I am one of the actors. I have no being outside it, as it has no being without me. I am merely a character, not a person.
The character will become a person when he begins to shape his life instead of accepting it as it comes and identifying himself with it.
When I ask a question and you answer, what exactly happens?
The question and the answer. Both appear on the screen. The lips move, the body speaks. And again, the screen is clear and empty.
When you say clear and empty, what do you mean?
I mean free of all contents. To myself, I am neither perceivable nor conceivable. There is nothing I can point out and say, "This I am." You identify yourself with everything so easily, I find it impossible. The feeling, I am not this or that, nor is anything mine, is so strong in me that as soon as a thing or a thought appears, there comes at once the sense, "This I am not."
Do you mean to say that you spend your time repeating, "This I am not, that I am not"?
Of course not. I am merely verbalizing for your sake. By the grace of my Guru, I have realized once and for good that I am neither object nor subject, and I do not need to remind myself all the time.
I find it hard to grasp what exactly do you mean by saying that you are neither the object nor the subject. At this very moment as we talk, am I not the object of your experience and you the subject?
Look, my thumb touches my forefinger. Both touch and are touched. When my attention is on the thumb is the feeler and the forefinger, the self. Shift the focus of attention and the relationship is reversed. I find that somehow, by shifting the focus of attention, I become the very thing I look at and experience the kind of consciousness it has. I become the inner witness of the thing. I call this capacity of entering other focal points of consciousness love. You may give it any name you like. Love says, "I am everything." Wisdom says, "I am nothing." Between the two, my life flows. Since at any point of time and space, I can be both the subject and the object of experience, I express it by saying that I am both and neither and beyond both.
You make all these extraordinary statements about yourself. What makes you say those things? What do you mean by saying that you're beyond space and time?
You ask and the answer comes. I watch myself. I watch the answer and see no contradiction. It is clear to me that I am telling you the truth. It is all very simple. Only you must trust me, that I mean what I say, that I am quite serious. As I told you already, my guru showed me my true nature and the true nature of the world. Having realized that I am one with and yet beyond the world, I became free from all desire and fear. I did not reason out that I should be free. I found myself free unexpectedly, without the least effort. This freedom from desire and fear remained with me since then. Another thing I noticed was that I do not need to make an effort. The deed follows the thought, without delay and friction. I have also found that thoughts become self-fulfilling. Things would fall in place smoothly and rightly. The main change was in the mind. It became motionless and silent, responding quickly, but not perpetuating the response. Spontaneity became a way of life. The real became natural, and the natural became real. And above all, infinite affection, love, dark and quiet, radiating in all directions, embracing all, making all interesting and beautiful, significant and auspicious.
We are told that various yogic powers arise spontaneously in a man who has realized his own true being. What is your experience in these matters?
Man's five-fold body, physical, etc., has potential powers beyond our wildest dreams. Not only is the entire universe reflected in man, but also the power to control the universe is waiting to be used by him. The wise man is not anxious to use such powers, except when the situation calls for them. He finds the abilities and skills of the human personality quite adequate for the business of daily living. Some of the powers can be developed by specialized training, but the man who flaunts such powers is still in bondage. The wise man counts nothing as his own. When at some time and place some miracle is attributed to some person, he will not establish any causal link between events and people, nor will he allow any conclusions to be drawn. All happened as it happened, because it had to happen. Everything happens as it does, because the universe is as it is.
The universe does not seem a happy place to live in. Why is there so much suffering?
Pain is physical. Suffering is mental. Beyond the mind, there is no suffering. Pain is merely a signal that the body is in danger and requires attention. Similarly, suffering warns us that the structure of memories and habits, which we call the person, vyakti, is threatened by loss or change. Pain is essential for the survival of the body, but none compels you to suffer. Suffering is due entirely to clinging or resisting. It is a sign of our unwillingness to move on, to flow with life. As a sane life is free of pain, so is a saintly life free from suffering.
Nobody has suffered more than saints.
Did they tell you, or do you say so on your own? The essence of saintliness is total acceptance of the present moment, harmony with things as they happen. A saint does not want things to be different from what they are. He knows that considering all factors, they are unavoidable. He is friendly with the inevitable and, therefore, does not suffer. Pain he may know, but it does not shatter him. If he can, he does the needful to restore the lost balance, or he lets things take their course.
He may die.
So what? What does he gain by living on, and what does he lose by dying? What was born must die. What was never born cannot die. It all depends on what he takes himself to be.
Imagine you fall mortally ill. Would you not regret and resent?
But I am dead already, or rather, neither alive nor dead. You see my body behaving the habitual way and draw your own conclusions. You will not admit that your conclusions bind nobody but you. Do see that the image you have of me may be altogether wrong. Your image of yourself is wrong too, but that is your problem. But you need not create problems for me and then ask me to solve them. I am neither creating problems nor solving them.
58th. Perfection, destiny of all.
Questioner: when asked about the means for self-realization, you invariably stress the importance of the mind dwelling on the sense I am. Where is the causal factor? Why should this particular thought result in self-realization? How does the contemplation of I am affect me?
Maharaj, the very fact of observation alters the observer and the observed. After all, what prevents the insight into one's true nature is the weakness and obtuseness of the mind and its tendency to skip the subtle and focus on the gross only. When you follow my advice and try to keep your mind on the notion of I am only, you become fully aware of your mind and its vagaries. Awareness, being lucid harmony, sattva, in action, dissolves dullness and quietens the restlessness of the mind, and gently but steadily changes its very substance. This change need not be spectacular. It may be hardly noticeable, yet it is a deep and fundamental shift from darkness to light, from inadvertence to awareness.
Must it be the I am formula? Will not any other sentence do? If I concentrate on there is a table, will it not serve the same purpose?
As an exercise in concentration? Yes. But it will not take you beyond the idea of a table. You are not interested in tables. You want to know yourself. For this keeps steadily in the focus of consciousness the only clue you have, your certainty of being. Be with it, play with it, ponder over it, delve deeply into it, till the shell of ignorance breaks open and you emerge into the realm of reality.
Is there any causal link between my focusing the I am and the breaking of the shell?
The urge to find oneself is a sign that you are getting ready. The impulse always comes from within. Unless your time has come, you will have neither the desire nor the strength to go for self-inquiry wholeheartedly.
Is not the grace of the Guru responsible for the desire and its fulfillment? Is not the Guru's radiant face the bait on which we are caught and pulled out of this mire of sorrow?
It is the inner Guru, Sadguru, who takes you to the outer Guru, as a mother takes her child to a teacher. Trust and obey your Guru, for he is the messenger of your real self.
How do I find a Guru whom I can trust?
Your own heart will tell you. There is no difficulty in finding a Guru, because the Guru is in search of you. The Guru is always ready. You are not ready. You have to be ready to learn, or you may meet your Guru and waste your chance by sheer inattentiveness and obstinacy. Take my example. There was nothing in me of much promise, but when I met my Guru, I listened, trusted, and obeyed.
Must I not examine the teacher before I put myself entirely into his hands?
By all means examine, but what can you find out? Only as he appears to you on your own level.
I shall watch whether he is consistent, whether there is harmony between his life and his teaching.
You may find plenty of disharmony. So what? It proves nothing. Only motives matter. How will you know his motives?
I should at least expect him to be a man of self-control who lives a righteous life.
Such you will find many, and of no use to you. A Guru can show the way back home, to your real self. What has this to do with the character or temperament of the person he appears to be? Does he not clearly tell you that he is not the person? The only way you can judge is by the change in yourself. when you are in his company. If you feel more at peace and happy, if you understand yourself with more than usual clarity and depth, it means you have met the right man. Take your time, but once you have made up your mind to trust him absolutely and follow every instruction fully and faithfully. It does not matter much if you do not accept him as your guru and are satisfied with his company only. Satsang alone can also take you to your goal, provided it is unmixed and undisturbed. But once you accept somebody as your guru, listen, remember, and obey. Half-heartedness is a serious drawback and the cause of much self-created sorrow. The mistake is never the guru's. It is always the obtuseness and cussedness of the discipline that is at fault.
Does the guru then dismiss or disqualify a disciple?
He would not be a guru if he did. He bides his time and waits till the disciple, chastened and sobered, comes back to him in a more receptive mood.
What is the motive? Why does the guru take so much trouble?
Sorrow and the ending of sorrow. He sees people suffering in their dreams, and he wants them to wake up. Love is intolerant of pain and suffering. The patience of a guru has no limits, and therefore it cannot be defeated. The guru never fails.
Is my first guru also my last, or do I have to pass from guru to guru?
The entire universe is your guru. You learn from everything if you are alert and intelligent. Were your mind clear and your heart clean, you would learn from every passerby. It is because you are indolent or restless that your inner self manifests as the outer guru and makes you trust him and obey.
Is a guru inevitable?
It is like asking, is a mother inevitable? To rise in consciousness from one dimension to another, you need help. The help may not always be in the shape of a human person. It may be a subtle presence or a spark of intuition, but help must come. The inner self is watching and waiting for the son to return to his father. At the right time, he arranges everything affectionately and effectively. Where a messenger is needed or a guide, he sends the guru to do the needful.
There is one thing I cannot grasp. You speak of the inner self as wise and good and beautiful, and in every way perfect, and of the person as mere reflection without a being of its own. On the other hand, you take so much trouble in helping the person to realize itself. If the person is so unimportant, why be so concerned with its welfare? Who cares for a shadow?
You have brought in duality where there is none. There is the body, and there is the self. Between them is the mind, in which the self is reflected as I am. Because of the imperfections of the mind, its crudity and restlessness, lack of discernment and insight, it takes itself to be the body, not the self. All that is needed is to purify the mind so that it can realize its identity with the self. When the mind merges in the self, the body presents no problems. It remains what it is, an instrument of cognition and action, the tool and the expression of the creative fire within. The ultimate value of the body is that it serves to discover the cosmic body, which is the universe in its entirety. As you realize yourself in manifestation, you keep on discovering that you are ever more than what you have imagined.
Is there no end to self-discovery?
As there is no beginning, there is no end. But what I have discovered by the grace of my guru is, I am nothing that can be pointed at. I am neither a this nor a that. This holds absolutely.
Then, where comes in the never-ending discovery, the endless transcending oneself into hue dimensions?
All this belongs to the realm of manifestation. It is in the very structure of the universe that the higher can be had only through the freedom from the lower.
What is lower and what is higher?
Look at it in terms of awareness. Wider and deeper consciousness is higher. All that lives works for protecting, perpetuating, and expanding consciousness. This is the world's sole meaning and purpose. It is the very essence of yoga, ever raising the level of consciousness, discovery of new dimensions, with their properties, qualities, and powers. In that sense, the entire universe becomes a school of yoga, Yoga Kshetra.
Is perfection the destiny of all human beings?
Of all living beings, ultimately. The possibility becomes a certainty when the notion of enlightenment appears in the mind. Once a living being has heard and understood that deliverance is within his reach, he will never forget, for it is the first message from within. It will take roots and grow, and in due course take the blessed shape of the Guru.
So all we are concerned with is the redemption of the mind?
What else? The mind goes astray. The mind returns home. Even the word astray is not proper. The mind must know itself in every mood. Nothing is a mistake unless repeated.
59th. Desire and fear, self-centered states.
Questioner: I would like to go again into the question of pleasure and pain, desire and fear. I understand fear, which is memory, and anticipation of pain. It is essential for the preservation of the organism and its living pattern. Needs, when felt, are painful, and their anticipation is full of fear. We are rightly afraid of not being able to meet our basic needs. The relief experienced when a need is met, or an anxiety allayed, is entirely due to the ending of pain. We may give it positive names like pleasure or joy or happiness, but essentially, it is relief from pain. It is this fear of pain that holds together our social, economic, and political institutions. What puzzles me is that we derive pleasure from things and states of mind which have nothing to do with survival. On the contrary, our pleasures are usually destructive. They damage or destroy the object, the instrument, and also the subject of pleasure. Otherwise, pleasure and pursuit of pleasure would be no problem. This brings me to the core of my question. Why is pleasure destructive? Why, in spite of its destructiveness, is it wanted? I may add, I do not have in mind the pleasure-pain pattern by which nature compels us to go her way. I think of the man-made pleasures, both sensory and subtle, ranging from the grossest, like overeating, to the most refined. Addiction to pleasure at whatever cost is so universal that there must be something significant at the root of it. Of course, not every activity of man must be utilitarian, designed to meet a need. Play, for example, is natural, and man is the most playful animal in existence. Play fulfills the need for self-discovery and self-development. But even on his play, man becomes destructive of nature, others, and himself.
In short, you do not object to pleasure, but only to its price in pain and sorrow.
If reality itself is bliss, then pleasure in some way must be related to it.
Let us not proceed by verbal logic. The bliss of reality does not exclude suffering. Besides, you know only pleasure, not the bliss of pure being. So let us examine pleasure at its own level. If you look at yourself in your moments of pleasure or pain, you will invariably find that it is not the thing in itself that is pleasant or painful, but the situation of which it is a part. Pleasure lies in the relationship between the enjoyer and the enjoyed, and the essence of it is acceptance. Whatever may be the situation, if it is acceptable, it is pleasant. If it is not acceptable, it is painful. What makes it acceptable is not important. The cause may be physical or psychological or untraceable. Acceptance is the decisive factor. Obversely, suffering is due to non-acceptance.
Pain is not acceptable.
Why not? Did you ever try? Do try, and you will find in pain a joy which pleasure cannot yield, for the simple reason that acceptance of pain takes you much deeper than pleasure does. The personal self, by its very nature, is constantly pursuing pleasure and avoiding pain. The ending of this pattern is the ending of the self. The ending of the self with its desires and fears enables you to return to your real nature, the source of all happiness and peace. The perennial desire for pleasure is the reflection of the timeless harmony within. It is an observable fact that one becomes self-conscious only when caught in the conflict between pleasure and pain, which demands choice and decision. It is this clash between desire and fear that causes anger, which is the great destroyer of sanity in life. When pain is accepted for what it is, a lesson and a warning, and deeply looked into and heeded, the separation between pain and pleasure breaks down. Both become experience, painful when resisted, joyful when accepted.
Do you advise shunning pleasure and pursuing pain?
No, nor pursuing pleasure and shunning pain. Accept both as they come, enjoy both while they last, let them go as they must.
How can I possibly enjoy pain? Physical pain calls for action.
Of course, and so does mental. The bliss is in the awareness of it, in not shrinking, or in any way turning away from it. All happiness comes from awareness. The more we are conscious, the deeper the joy. Acceptance of pain, non-resistance, courage and endurance. These open, deep and perennial sources of real happiness, true bliss.
Why should pain be more effective than pleasure?
Pleasure is readily accepted, while all the powers of the self reject pain. As the acceptance of pain is the denial of the self, and the self stands in the way of true happiness, the wholehearted acceptance of pain releases the springs of happiness.
Does the acceptance of suffering act the same way?
The fact of pain is easily brought within the focus of awareness. With suffering, it is not that simple. To focus suffering is not enough, for mental life, as we know it, is one continuous stream of suffering. To reach the deeper layers of suffering, you must go to its roots and uncover their vast underground network, where fear and desire are closely interwoven, and the currents of life's energy oppose, obstruct, and destroy each other.
How can I set right a tangle which is entirely below the level of my consciousness?
By being with yourself, the I Am. By watching yourself in your daily life with alert interest, with the intention to understand rather than to judge, in full acceptance of whatever may emerge, because it is there, you encourage the deep to come to the surface and enrich your life and consciousness with its captive energies. This is the great work of awareness. It removes obstacles and releases energies by understanding the nature of life and mind. Intelligence is the door to freedom, and alert attention is the mother of intelligence.
One more question. Why does pleasure end in pain?
Everything has a beginning and an end, and so does pleasure. Don't anticipate and don't regret, and there will be no pain. It is memory and imagination that cause suffering. Of course, pain after pleasure may be due to the misuse of the body or the mind. The body knows its measure, but the mind does not. Its appetites are numberless and limitless. Watch your mind with great diligence, for there lies your bondage, and also the key to freedom.
My question is not yet fully answered. Why are man's pleasures destructive? Why does he find so much pleasure in destruction? Life's concern lies in protection, perpetuation, and expansion of itself. In this, it is guided by pain and pleasure. At what point do they become destructive?
When the mind takes over, remembers and anticipates, it exaggerates, it distorts, it overlooks. The past is projected into future, and the future betrays the expectations. The organs of sensation and action are stimulated beyond capacity, and they inevitably break down, The objects of pleasure cannot yield what is expected of them and get worn out or destroyed by misuse. It results in excess of pain where pleasure was looked for.
We destroy not only ourselves but others too.
Naturally, selfishness is always destructive. Desire and fear both are self-centered states. Between desire and fear, anger arises. With anger, hatred. With hatred, passion for destruction. War is hatred in action, organized and equipped with all the instruments of death.
Is there a way to end these horrors?
When more people come to know their real nature, their influence, however subtle, will prevail, and the world's emotional atmosphere will sweeten up. People follow their leaders, and when among the leaders appear some, great in heart and mind, and absolutely free from self-seeking, their impact will be enough to make the crudities and crimes of the present age impossible. A new golden age may come and last for a time, and succumb to its own perfection. For ebb begins when the tide is at its highest.
Is there no such thing as permanent perfection?
Yes, there is, but it includes all imperfection. It is the perfection of our self-nature which makes everything possible, perceivable, interesting. It knows no suffering, for it neither likes nor dislikes, neither accepts nor rejects. Creation and destruction are the two poles between which it weaves its ever-changing pattern. Be free from predilections and preferences, and the mind with its burden of sorrow will be no more.
But I am not alone to suffer. There are others.
When you go to them with your desires and fears, you merely add to their sorrows. First be free of suffering yourself, and then only hope of helping others. You do not even need to hope. Your very existence will be the greatest help a man can give his fellow men.
60. Live facts, not fancies.
Questioner, you say that whatever you see is yourself. You also admit that you see the world as we see it. Here is today's newspaper with all the horrors going on. Since the world is yourself, how can you explain such misbehavior?
Maharaj, which world do you have in mind?
Our common world, in which we live.
Are you sure we live in the same world? I do not mean nature, the sea and the land, plants and animals. They are not the problem, nor the endless space, the infinite time, the inexhaustible power. Do not be misled by my eating and smoking, reading and talking. My mind is not here, my life is not here. Your world, of desires and their fulfillments, of fears and their escapes, is definitely not my world. I do not even perceive it, except through what you tell me about it. It is your private dream world, and my only reaction to it is to ask you to stop dreaming.
Surely, wars and revolutions are not dreams. Sick mothers and starving children are not dreams. Wealth, ill-gotten and misused, is not a dream.
What else?
A dream cannot be shared.
Nor can the waking state. All the three states, of waking, dreaming, and sleeping, are subjective, personal, intimate. They all happen to and are contained within the little bubble in consciousness called I. The real world lies beyond the self.
Self or no self, facts are real.
Of course, facts are real. I live among them, but you live with fancies, not with facts. Facts never clash, while your life and world are full of contradictions. Contradiction is the mark of the false. The real never contradicts itself. For instance, you complain that people are abjectly poor, yet you do not share your riches with them. You mind the war next door, but you hardly give it a thought when it is in some far-off country. The shifting fortunes of your ego determine your values. I think, I want, I must, are made into absolutes.
Nevertheless, the evil is real.
Not more real than you are. Evil is in the wrong approach to problems created by misunderstanding and misuse. It is a vicious circle.
Can the circle be broken?
A false circle need not be broken. It is enough to see it as it is, non-existent.
But real enough to make us submit to and inflict indignities and atrocities.
Insanity is universal. Sanity is rare. Yet there is hope, because the moment we perceive our insanity, we are on the way to sanity. This is the function of the Guru, to make us see the madness of our daily living. Life makes you conscious, but the teacher makes you aware.
Sir, you are neither the first nor the last. Since immemorial times people were breaking into reality, yet how little it affected our lives. The Ramas and the Krishnas, the Buddhas and the Christs have come and gone, and we are as we were, wallowing in sweat and tears. What have the great ones done, whose lives we witnessed? What have you done, sir, to alleviate the world's thrall?
You alone can undo the evil you have created. Your own callous selfishness is at the root of it. Put first your own house in order, and you will see that your work is done.
The men of wisdom and of love who came before us did set themselves right, often at a tremendous cost. What was the outcome? A shooting star, however bright, does not make the night less dark.
To judge them and their work, you must become one of them. A frog in a well knows nothing about the birds in the sky.
Do you mean to say that between good and evil there is no wall?
There is no wall because there is no good and no evil. In every concrete situation, there is only the necessary and the unnecessary. The needful is right, the needless is wrong.
Who decides?
The situation decides. Every situation is a challenge which demands the right response. When the response is right, the challenge is met and the problem ceases. If the response is wrong, the challenge is not met and the problem remains unsolved. Your unsolved problems, that is what constitutes your karma. Solve them rightly and be free.
You seem to drive me always back into myself. Is there no objective solution to the world's problems?
The world problems were created by numberless people like you, each full of his own desires and fears. Who can free you of your past, personal and social, except yourself? And how will you do it unless you see the urgent need of your being first free of cravings, born of illusion? How can you truly help, as long as you need help yourself?
In what way did the ancient sages help? In what way do you help? A few individuals profit, no doubt. Your guidance and example may mean a lot to them. But in what way do you affect humanity, the totality of life and consciousness? You say that you are the world and the world is you. What impact have you made on it?
What kind of impact do you expect?
Man is stupid, selfish, cruel.
Man is also wise, affectionate, and kind.
Why does not goodness prevail?
It does, in my real world. In my world, even what you call evil is the servant of the good and therefore necessary. It is like boils and fevers that clear the body of impurities. Disease is painful, even dangerous. But if dealt with rightly, it heals.
Or kills.
In some cases, death is the best cure. A life may be worse than death, which is but rarely an unpleasant experience, whatever the appearances. Therefore, pity the living, never the dead. This problem of things, good and evil in themselves, does not exist in my world. The needful is good, and the needless is evil. In your world, the pleasant is good, and the painful is evil.
What is necessary?
To grow is necessary. To outgrow is necessary. To leave behind the good for the sake of the better is necessary.
To what end?
The end is in the beginning. You end where you start. in the absolute.
Why all this trouble then? To come back to where I started?
Whose trouble? Which trouble? Do you pity the seed that is to grow and multiply till it becomes a mighty forest? Do you kill an infant to save him from the bother of living? What is wrong with life? Evermore life. Remove the obstacles to growing, and all your personal, social, economic, and political problems will just dissolve. The universe is perfect as a whole, and the parts striving for perfection is a way of joy. Willingly sacrifice the imperfect to the perfect, and there will be no more talk about good and evil.
Yet we are afraid of the better and cling to the worse.
This is our stupidity, verging on insanity.